Let's kick off NFL Week 13 with some power rankings. What's going on, BLV football fans? It's Mitch back here with another week of NFL coverage, NFL reactions, and of course, NFL power rankings. This is how I kick off each and every NFL week, by digesting the previous week, week number 12, and ranking each team in the NFL, giving you my updated thoughts on each team from the worst, number 32, to the best, the number 1 team in football. Who is it? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your power rankings and let me know where you agree and you disagree with my power rankings. Gronk, spike the damn like button, and let's have a good time. Let's rank some NFL teams. It's week 13. It's time to kick off another week. There's no better way than here on the BLV with some power rankings. Let's go. At number 32, the worst team in football, it's still the Carolina Panthers. There's nothing that has to be said about how bad the Carolina Panthers are. Bryce Young has been a disastrous first overall pick. Horrendous. The offensive line still can't figure it out. The receiving core can't separate. Probably the worst receiving core right now in football, especially within how they're utilized. Maybe even worse than the Patriots. I know that is pretty bad. The defense, not any good either. And Frank Reich, because of it, has been fired. Can't get the most out of the first overall pick. Can't support him with a scheme that works for Bryce Young. So now, Carolina's starting again with the coaching staff. Again. The fastest fire since the 70s, guys. That is sad stuff. Now imagine if the Carolina Panthers picked C.J. Stroud. Would Frank Reich still be the coach? Or was Frank Reich always never meant to be the Carolina coach? I at one time believed he was a good coach, but I no longer believe that he is currently, in this form, a good coach, and certainly not one that can build a young quarterback at this stage in his career. Good luck, Bryce Young. You're going to need it, pal. And good luck to the next coach of the Carolina Panthers, because they suck. At number 31, yes, sir, I have updated the New York Jets to being the second worst team in the NFL. And a lot of this has to do with the current state of the quarterback position for the Jets. They have easily the worst quarterback in the NFL that is starting. I mean, I don't care what's going on in Cleveland. I don't care what's going on in New York with the Giants or the Patriots in New England. This is the worst quarterback in the league. Timmy Boyle. He was bad in college, guys. He was bad in college. The offensive line can't block a soul. They can't run the ball, can't throw the ball, have no receivers outside of one Garrett Wilson. The defense is good, but they wear down by the second half. You just have to move the ball 3 yards at a time, and you'll beat this team. Plus, Robert Saleh will probably make a stupid decision throughout the game, which doesn't help his team either. This team stinks. I also have them at number 31 because at number 30, I have the Patriots. You could argue the Patriots are 31, but I would just argue that the Patriots always beat the Jets. And I still think the Patriots are somehow going to beat the Jets, and that will be their final win of the season. But the Patriots are in a good spot to get a franchise quarterback. Mac Jones is broken, and if they continue to play broken Mac Jones, they're going to continue to lose. You know, Bailey Zappi is not much better. He's probably worse, actually. And they really didn't even try to attempt a forward pass with Bailey Zappi. He only really threw screens. This is one of the most horrendous offenses to watch that I've ever seen within the last decade of football. It's even worse than last year, which speaks volumes. It is gross. It is gross at every level, from the blocking to the run game, pass game, the creativity, the quarterback play. It's all bad. Receiver play, it's all bad. The defense has actually played really well as of late, but they haven't had a ton of competition. This week, they do face the Chargers. So at least from that standpoint, I'll be looking forward to seeing how Belichick game plans for Herbert, which he's been successful with in the recent history. I think that game will be as ugly as ever. Watching the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, that was an ugly game against the Ravens. I expect similar against the Patriots, except the Patriots don't have Lamar Jackson. Next, number 29, the New York G-Men. The G-Men are my number 29. Danny DeVito, the Italian stallion. This guy, at least people like him. At least the coaching staff likes him, the players like him, and the players play for him. And that was evident against New England. He also hasn't been turning the ball over at an extremely high rate, which keeps his team in the game. Saquon Barkley has been the engine of this offense, doing a good job through the air and on the ground, leading the offense. The offensive line has improved, and I give Brian Daboll credit for that. It's not the disaster it once upon a time was early in the year. And Wink Martindale always coaches a good defense. No Leonard Williams, still doing a pretty good job with that unit. So the Giants, they're going to be in position as well to pick a future quarterback. I think they should. I think they should at least very heavily think about it. But the Giants, I still feel like they play with pride. So that's why they're above the Jets or the Patriots. I don't think they're better than the Patriots. Like, if you actually watch that game, the only reason New England lost is because of their quarterback play. The Giants are a worse team, but they play harder with more passion, and they don't play as stupid. So that's why they're at number 29. At number 28, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are a pretty big step up from number 29. Tennessee did beat Carolina pretty easily, although the score didn't really indicate that. It was never really close. It was never really in jeopardy. Will Levis continues to be a rookie. He's going to make some plays. He's also going to make some mistakes. They play better at home. The offensive line is the reason why. They can't block a soul on the road. They can't get set up. They can't go a drive without a false start or something wrong on the offensive line. Derrick Henry's still a good player, but not the player he was. DeAndre Hopkins, the very same. They don't have enough playmakers. They don't have a good enough offensive line. Their offense is just a mess in totality. And the defense is not as good as it once was. The secondary constantly gives up big plays. The pass rush is decent, but not as good as it was. And the run defense is decent, but not as good as it was. Actually, in fact, the run defense has been more leaky than every season I can remember under Mike Vrabel. Honestly, right now, Mike Vrabel, I love as a coach. I think he's easily a top 10 coach in this league. But he has not really done anything for this team this year, to be honest with you. He has not brought the typical Mike Vrabel-ness to the table as one of the best game managers in the league. And maybe it's just the lack of talent or the lack of offense. That could be it. But, you know, it might be time for the Titans to actually think about something different here, because they are going to have to think about the quarterback position, the entirety of the offensive line. They need to restart and reset with a lot of their team. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. At number 27, the Washington Commanders. I don't know where to rank this team. I like the offense most of the time. Sam Howell makes plays. I think he's a middling quarterback right now. He's got a good arm. He can run. He's savvy. He's tough. He does make some mistakes and have some catastrophic turnovers. He does take a lot of pressure and sacks, but that's part of the ingredient of playing in this Eric Bieniemy attack that's going to throw the ball 45 times a game. They don't really run the ball enough to keep it balanced or to stay in games, in my opinion, and their defense is just atrocious right now. Like, they don't have anything going with their defense. Jack Del Rio was fired for a reason. He's terrible. And Ron Rivera needs to be fired next. This team needs to elevate Eric Bieniemy as the head coach. I actually think Eric Bieniemy would be a good head coach because I think he has a good player relationship type of personality. He was a player. He's dealt with tough things in his life, and he's also a creative offensive mind. So I think it fits there in Washington. I'm looking forward to it. I think you have a quarterback for the next year or two. We'll see what Sam Howell can bring with a better team, a better offensive line. But at least you have a short-term answer to see what Howell can really bring you at the quarterback position. But right now, this team is all offense, very little defense, and the defense doesn't allow the offense to win games right now. At number 26, the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray has shown up through his first couple of games, but last week it was really bad for the defense. There's just a matchup deal with the Rams where they can't stop the Rams from running the ball, and their front seven just gets dominated against that scheme. Sean McVay showed up Gannon in a big way in that game, and I do think that speaks to the Cardinals' deficiencies, the matchup, but also the Rams kind of trending in the right direction. I think the Cardinals are simply what they are. They're not a very talented team with a pretty talented quarterback that doesn't have a lot around him. And ultimately, that's why they're number 26. They're good enough at quarterback to maintain competitiveness against bad teams, but they don't have the talent to play against good teams, especially teams with a good quarterback and good coaching. So at number 26, the Cardinals. At number 25, the Bengals. I think the Bengals have the opposite of the Cardinals. I think they have a good roster around the quarterback, but they don't have a quarterback currently. Joe Burrow is no longer there. They're tough evaluation. I felt like their offense actually played decent against the Steelers overall, and I didn't think that they were terrible on that side of the ball. It was actually, believe it or not, their defense. Although they didn't allow a lot of points, they allowed a ton of yards. I think they allowed over 400 yards in the game, and that is just unspeakable against the Steelers. Like, that shouldn't happen. Big Lou's defense has been torn apart this year in ways I never expected. And now that Joe Burrow's no longer there, there's no quarterback to kind of pace the game the way that the offense would typically. So it puts a lot more pressure on the defense to perform, and right now they're getting shredded. At number 24, the Chicago Bears. Bears move up with a big win over the Vikings. It really doesn't matter for them this season other than just ruining their draft pick. But you know, it's nice to see their defense under a defensive head coach, Matt Eberflus, actually perform. That was a big spot for them. I felt like Matt Eberflus's defense came to play. We saw TJ Edwards and Edmonds really play hard at linebacker. I thought Montez Sweat had a great game. I thought their defensive line in totality played really well, especially against the run. And their secondary really stood out. I thought Gordon had one of his better games as a pro. Brisker's always been one of my favorites. And, of course, Jalen Johnson's been an all-pro caliber corner this year. He's phenomenal. So the Bears actually have a good defense mixed with kind of a different type of offense to defend. They didn't play that well against the Vikings, but the Vikings are uniquely suited to slow down Justin Fields and the Bears. And, you know, although they're not very talented on defense, Minnesota, they have a blitz-heavy scheme that challenges the weaknesses of Justin Fields. That showed up, and Fields made some critical mistakes, which I think once again proves he shouldn't be their guy moving forward. They should go after Caleb Williams, but I think that he's shown enough flashes and enough talent to maybe be an answer somewhere else with a better team around him. Maybe you dial down the importance of him making plays, and you allow him to play within structure and a system, and I think Fields can be a serviceable quarterback. I'm not going to say he's going to be great, but I think that he could be serviceable somewhere like Atlanta, somewhere like the Jets. I don't know, maybe. I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, but like somewhere like that where you have other things around you and it can work out. But the Jets offense is also terrible. Yeah. Anyways, continuing. At number 23, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought they played really well in the first quarter, and then after that, they kind of fell apart. But their offense shocked me with how well they moved the football early in that game against the Chiefs. The Chiefs have an elite defense, a legit, very good defense, and the Raiders were able to run the ball for big plays with Josh Jacobs, throw the ball. Jacoby Myers was having a game and a half. Aiden O'Connell looked really good, and they came out with a good game plan, a good script early on, and some creativity, and they really took it to the Chiefs. And then eventually, their defense, from a talent standpoint, just can't hang with Mahomes, and that was the story in the second half at number 23. They're a team that plays hard, but they don't have the quarterback, and they don't have a defense in terms of they're well schemed, they're well coached on defense. They don't have a lot of talent on defense. Like, they don't have a lot of standout players. At number 22, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints continue to be one of the most frustrating teams in football, and I understand the groans and moans from the Saints fandom because Derek Carr stinks and he is the worst red zone quarterback in the league. Threw another pick six to Jesse Bates. Said it was just a great play by Jesse Bates. Okay, pal. Great. Fantastic. Good job, Derek Carr. But, I felt like the Saints defense, it's been a little bit overrated thanks to playing cupcakes. I think that showed up a little bit against Atlanta. And then offensively, they're just frustrating to watch. They just can't connect on big plays often enough. Their run game's inconsistent. The offensive line's inconsistent. Derek Carr is Derek Carr. And it is what it is. And the coaching staff is below average. Definitely. Maybe even bottom tier in the league. At number 21, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, they're slightly better than the Saints, slightly more respectable. They've been dealing with injuries on defense, which has certainly hurt them. It hurt them against the Colts. Levante David didn't play. And the offense, I do think, is fun to watch in terms of Baker Mayfield, trying to make plays. I like that Baker has the belief from his team. He is a leader, and those guys play hard every week for him. I feel like the run game's been getting better as of late. Rashad White's been playing better as of late. And Mike Evans just continuously makes plays week after week after week, especially in the red zone. Talk about a red zone player. That's Mike Evans, the opposite of Derek Carr. And then the defense, I think, is inconsistent. They're really good against the run, really bad against the pass at times. And that's partly because of Bowles. Like, his scheme is just that way. And unless they have elite talent in the pass rush, they're not really going to be a good pass defense type of team. At number 21. At number 20, the Minnesota Vikings. They very much disappointed me, severely disappointed me. We finally saw why Josh Dobbs is not a starting quarterback and why he's a journeyman. More tape, the more film, especially within this offense, the better for opponents, and that showed up with the Bears. And Josh Dobbs lost them this game, 4 interceptions on the game. That's terrible. That's putrid. That's no good. And that lost them the game. But O'Connell also mismanaged the end of the game. So this was just a terrible performance by the Vikings offense, by the Vikings head coach. The defense played admirably. They played hard. They tackled well. They made plays when they needed to. They set the team up with a chance to take a lead by 4 at the end of the game. They were still leading 10-9, and they still weren't able to win. So Vikings defense playing hard. Offense, I'm really worried about. Justin Jefferson comes back soon. The Vikings defense did a good job against Justin Fields, but they're going to need Justin Jefferson to really spark something moving forward, or else I kind of will give up hope with them making the playoffs. I'm going to be honest. Dobbs looked that bad. At number 19, the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers are one of those teams that you can safely say are not going to make the playoffs, but I still think they're going to be a pain in the butt down the stretch because they have Justin Herbert, and they have a good offense. And although their offense didn't show up on Sunday, I was impressed with the physicality that they were able to play with in that game against the Ravens. It's difficult to play against the Ravens, especially that defense that hits like a Mack truck every single damn play of the game. But Herbert, he can win a game by himself at times, and that is worth respecting. At the same time, I think Brandon Staley needs to be fired, but I thought that he had one of his better performances against the Ravens last week. Offensively, Keenan Allen's playing superb football. Eckler's still washed, and they don't really have much else. But hey, it's Herbert, it's Allen. It's a defense that Khalil Mack playing unbelievable, and at times their corners can really show up. So the Chargers are just an inconsistent defense, especially against the pass. And the offense is good, but not good enough to carry this team to a playoff appearance. At number 18, the Indianapolis Colts. A more well-rounded team than the Chargers, but nothing really elite that stands out. If you were going to say anything was very good, it would be the run game. Jonathan Taylor appears to be back and is playing very good football. The offensive line is playing very well all year, really. Gardner Minshew, as long as he doesn't turn it over, can get the job done. And the defense needs to fix their run defense. Grover Stewart missing is a huge problem. And the linebacker position, without Darius Leonard now, it's interesting. Leonard wasn't playing that well, but they just can't stop the run, man. I don't know what's going on with them. And then the secondary, obviously, they can't really overcompensate towards the run because they don't have the corners to really play at an elite level out there in pass coverage. So it's just a problem all around on defense. But their offense does a good job pacing the game, controlling the ball, and having possession. Then they do a good job with play action. They do a good job with screens and run game. And Minshew, as long as he doesn't have a putrid performance, they can hang in most games. At number 17, the Atlanta Falcons. As my alarm goes off mid-video, apologize about that. At number 17, the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, I guess that's an indication that the Atlanta Falcons should alarm you because they won a game against the Saints, but what does that really mean, man? What does that really mean? I don't know. It's a divisional game. They beat the Bucs. They beat the Saints. That's great. They probably have enough to win this division despite having a terrible quarterback position. But their offense, I thought they got back to their bread and butter. They ran Bijan Robinson. They have a strong offensive line. They leaned on it. And their defense played really well in situations, right? Jesse Bates, huge play. He's been a great signing for them. And I do think that when Arthur Smith is not trying to fumble around whether or not he's going to give Bijan Robinson the ball, he is a fairly good offensive coach. Drake London had a really good game as well against the Saints, in my opinion. And Ritter, I think, is the guy for them just because he brings leadership traits and a bit more mobility than somebody like Mr. Heineken out there. At number 16, the Cleveland Browns. Browns have a great defense, but early in the game, they didn't really dominate, and part of that was not having Denzel Ward. Part of that was weakness against the run early that Sean Payton exploited, and once they fall behind, their offense isn't talented enough in the passing game to make anything happen because they don't have a quarterback. So this is a team that needs to play from out in front. They need to be able to run the ball. They need to be able to have play action in the screen game. And without it, they're nothing on offense. They're absolutely putrid on offense. I don't really know where to rank this team because they have a great defense that can win them any game. But their offense, their quarterback position specifically, is going to be really, really bad moving forward, especially if Joe Flacco is playing. At number 15, the Green Bay Packers. The thumbnail on this video is Jordan Love, Christian Watson. Jordan Love, best game of his career. He's played really good football back-to-back weeks. Christian Watson alive once again. I'm looking forward to this Chiefs game to see how real the Packers really are. But the thing that maybe impressed me the most out of everything was that first half performance by the Packers defense, specifically their pass rush, to dominate the Lions offensive line on the road was extremely impressive. And I thought Joe Barry put together a great plan against this Lions offense. So congratulations to the Packers. Huge Thanksgiving win, gives them huge momentum, and they might make the playoffs. At number 14, the Los Angeles Rams. When Matthew Stafford is healthy, throwing 4 touchdowns, Kyron Williams is healthy, Cooper Kupp is healthy, and Sean McVay is coaching this team, they're a good offense, and they're a good enough team to beat bad teams, right? They have mostly a better coach and a better quarterback than 90% of the NFL. So that gives you an edge. Plus, you have Aaron Donald, which never hurts. And the defense is fundamentally sound and makes you earn every yard you get. So at number 14, the Rams, I think they also have a really good chance of making the playoffs by sweeping the Seahawks. And I was impressed by them actually going out and dominating a team. That was impressive to me. At number 13, the Seattle Seahawks. I still have the Seahawks at 13 despite being on a little bit of a losing streak. I thought it was fluky that they lost the Rams because Geno got hurt, right? People are going to forget about that. But Geno got hurt and that's why they lost. And then last week, they played the Niners. So it's the worst matchup in the league for them. It's a division foe that knows them very well. I think the Seahawks defense impressed me for portions of that game, and I think they're a good defense, and I think that's a reason that I give them some hope against the Cowboys. I think the Seahawks defense is the best defense the Cowboys have played in weeks. So that's something, right? And still, you've got a number of playmakers out there. So I'm looking forward to watching the Seahawks for the rest of the year. Can they pull off an upset against the Eagles or the Niners or someone like that? They're going to have to if they really want to make the playoffs. At number 12, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the Pittsburgh Steelers. This team believes in Kenny Pickett. No matter how shit he is, they believe in him. The run game has really improved. Matt Canada, no longer, and they go for 400 yards. That is incredible, considering that Matt Canada never had a 400-yard offensive game. Insane. First game, 400. The receiving core is talented. Deontay and Pickens bring something different to the table, and Pat Freiermuth definitely brought something with 100 yards in that game against the Bengals. And then defensively, really good pass rush, and Porter Jr. has showed up in a big way for this secondary. He's been their answer. At number 11, the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos just continue to win. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. They beat the Vikings. They beat the Browns. They beat arguably the best quarterbacks in the league and the best defense in the league. Sean Payton doing his thing. Russell Wilson makes 3 or 4 plays every game that remind you of old Russell Wilson. They run the ball well. They don't turn it over. They kick field goals on fourth down, and they play good defense. It's good enough to be potentially a playoff team for the Broncos, but they have a really tough stretch moving forward. They play the Chargers twice. They play I can't remember, but honestly, they play a tough schedule. I can't quite remember who it is, but I know that they play the Chargers twice. But overall, the Broncos are going to have to perform against their division if they want to make the playoffs, right? And they've been up and down against their division. They lost to the Raiders. So they're going to have to beat the Chargers. They're going to have to beat the Raiders. That would be 3 wins for the rest of the year. Can't recall who else they play, although I know that it's tough. They do play the Texans this week, which is a huge game for the wild card. Entering the top 10. At number 10, the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff has been a bit shakier, which has caused some indecision for me with the offense. I think that's holding back, I feel like, my ranking of still keeping them around number 8, because yeah, their defense is really bad and is performing at a league low level. Like, they're one of the 5 worst defenses in the league the last couple of weeks. But if the offense is still elite with Jared Goff playing at his top of his powers, they're still a top 8 team in my opinion, because they can pace and control the game through the offense. But Goff's got to perform and bounce back. I was really disappointed with the offensive line last week. I was really disappointed by the game plan early. And the defense is just putrid. Nothing else has to be said. That's why they're number 10. I can't rely on their defense, which makes me believe that most teams can keep in a game against the Lions. This is why I've moved them so far down. At number 9, the Houston Texans. The Texans have a better defense than the Lions, and I think they have a fairly similar offense, and they have a better quarterback. So that's why I put them above the Lions. Although they have a worse record, they have played much tougher schedule and much tougher teams. And when you look at that Jacksonville game, they had 8 points taken off the board in terms of Jacksonville got pass interference calls on 3rd and goal twice, and I feel like the Texans could have easily won that game. They could have easily taken it to overtime with a 58-yard field goal off the crossbar. CJ Stroud continues to impress me with his pocket presence, his movement in the pocket, his ability to step up and make throws. The guy is unbelievable. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. At number 8, the Buffalo Bills. Yes, sir. I know that they're 6-6. They have the best quarterback in the NFL right now, at least this season. Leads the NFL in total yards and total touchdowns. The offense is top 3 in the NFL thanks to Josh Allen. I think the run game is getting a bit better. The offensive line is playing as well as I've ever seen it play for Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs is still Stephon Diggs. Dalton Kincaid continues to get better. The defense has their moments. I think they just kind of got exposed by a really good offense in the Eagles in the second half. I think they're kind of a middling unit, and I think that will be good enough to contend with a lot of the teams down the stretch. They showed they can play with anyone because Josh Allen's that good. At number 7, the Jacksonville Jags. I think they beat Buffalo. They obviously have a more well-rounded team. Trevor Lawrence doesn't have to carry the team, but he has enough talent to make throws when they need him to, and that showed up against the Texans, right? I thought that was one of his best games all season. They actually unleashed his arm down the field. Calvin Ridley, when he plays like that, this team is really a contender because they've got Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley. That's dangerous. Then you've got ETN and Ingram. This is one of the best skill position groups in the league. The offensive line's still struggling. Cam Robinson injured. That's going to hurt. But this defense is also very talented and can make plays of their own, especially up front. At number 6, the Miami Dolphins. This one's interchangeable with Jacksonville. I trust Lawrence more than I trust Tua, but I trust the rest of the team on Miami more than I trust the rest of Jacksonville's team. I like Miami's skill positions obviously more, their run game more. I like their pass game more. I like the structure of their schemes more. I think Fangio's defense is playing at a top 10 level, and even without Jalen Phillips, put Van Ginkel in there, my boy. I feel like this is still a really good defense. I still think they'll make a lot of plays. So if Tua can just keep his head out of his rear end and not turn the ball over multiple times against good teams, they'll be able to contend with anybody in this league. At number 5, entering the top 5, I've got the Chiefs still. I contemplated number 4. Like, it's close between them and my number 4. But I just couldn't because it was against the Raiders. Like, they usually blow the Raiders out once a year, and they got behind 14-0. I didn't like seeing that. I thought for me to really move the dial for the Chiefs, I had to see them dominate from start to finish, and I didn't see that. I saw them beat a team in the second half that they're much more talented than. At number 4, the Baltimore Ravens. Still the top team in the AFC. Very frustrated by their offensive performance against the Chargers, but that defense, man, that defense makes plays. They hit you, and they didn't have Marlon Humphrey either, so that's something to consider. But the offense certainly missed Mark Andrews. Entering the top 3, at number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. They have simply been the best team in terms of point differential, most dominant team. This week, though, on Thursday, it's a big game for them because offensively, they finally play a respectable defense. So I'm looking forward to that. Defensively, though, they should be able to dominate Geno Smith and company. This is a complete team with a really good quarterback right now. At number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. You could argue based on their competition played, they could be number 1. I wouldn't really argue against it. They do play my number 1 this week. The Philadelphia Eagles are a very good team, but I just don't see the dominance that I would like to see out of my number 1 team, which is why the San Francisco 49ers are my number 1 team. I feel like the Eagles, 4 straight games, falling behind by double digits, getting outgained. The Niners, when they've been healthy, are undefeated. The Niners, when they've been healthy and when they've been, just together, I mean, this team has been dominant. Not only have they beaten everybody, they've destroyed everybody they've played with all of their players. So that is thoroughly impressive. At number 1, the Niners didn't even allow an offensive touchdown to my 13th best team in the NFL. That speaks volumes. So Brock Purdy's really good too. Stop saying he's not. Those are my NFL power rankings. From number 32 to number 1, from the worst to the best. Thank you so much for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. Kittle, spike it. Kelsey, spike it. We'll see you soon. Peace, guys.